There are days when nothing feels enough. You've eaten, you've scrolled, you've talked, you've worked, and still something aches. You might not have words for it. Maybe it feels like restlessness, or like a silent sadness that has no clear source. It could even feel like fatigue, not just of the body, but of the spirit. What you are experiencing is the quiet cry of your soul. The Stoics believed the soul wasn't some abstract or mystical thing. It was the very seat of your rational mind, your ethical compass, your guiding essence. And like the body, the soul can become malnourished. It needs strength, it needs discipline, it needs clarity. But more than anything, it needs purpose. It needs something to belong to, something to strive for, something to endure for. This isn't about religious doctrine or metaphysical speculation. This is about waking up each day with the ability to withstand what the world throws at you and to remain upright, honest, and at peace. The Stoic path is a nourishment of the soul. It's not easy, but it is clear. It calls you to mastery, not over others, but over yourself, to live simply, to think deeply, and to walk steadily no matter the weather of the world around you. If you felt adrift or empty or consumed by noise, your soul doesn't need more distraction. It needs this. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The weight of the world and the lightness of wisdom. Life has a way of piling on. One task becomes 10. One disappointment becomes a spiral. One conflict becomes a storm. The modern world is not built for peace. It is built for pace, for faster, louder, more. We are immersed in noise, stimulation, urgency. And in this pressure cooker of productivity and comparison, your soul begins to suffocate, unnoticed at first, until it becomes your normal way of being. Restless, tight, always bracing for the next demand. The Stoics lived in turbulent times, wars, political upheaval, betrayal, exile. Yet their words speak with a strange calm that seems almost superhuman today. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of one of history's most powerful empires, wrote quietly to himself in the margins of his life. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke. In a world full of chaos, the battlefield is perception, and perception can be retrained. The weight of the world is real, but your response is not automatic. It's not destiny. Your inner state is not a puppet of outer events. The Stoics trained themselves to pause, to reflect, to see the whole rather than react to the part. They understood something we often forget, that the moment between stimulus and response is the space where freedom lives. This is wisdom, not the collection of facts, but the transformation of vision. Where do you begin? You begin with awareness, not reaction, not urgency, but slow, steady awareness. Begin by noticing what weighs you down, not in judgment, but in curiosity. Let yourself feel it fully without trying to push it away. Write it down in honest detail. What's nagging you? What's eating at you when everything else goes quiet? What's following you from room to room in your mind as if it refuses to be silenced? Then ask yourself, what part of this is truly mine to influence? What thoughts am fueling this burden? Have I allowed it to grow because I fed it with resentment, fear, or false obligation? Have I let it expand because I feared letting go of control? What part of this is entirely beyond me, and yet I carry it as if it were my personal mission to fix? You don't have to fix everything, and you're not weak for releasing what was never yours. You are wise. You are learning to choose your burdens with discernment, with patience, with growing self-trust. You are not abandoning responsibility. You are defining it properly. The world will offer you endless reasons to carry things that do not belong to you. You must become skilled in saying no to what drains your clarity and yes to what deepens your peace. You only need to stop feeding what starves your peace. That is where strength begins. True strength is not loud or boastful. It is gentle, measured, and resilient. The soul begins to breathe again when it sheds illusions, when it stops mistaking busyness for worth, or struggle for purpose, or noise for significance. The illusions are subtle, but they are costly. They creep into your days disguised as urgency and wrap themselves around your thoughts like obligations. But not all responsibilities are yours, and not all striving is noble. You were not created to live in reaction to everything around you. You were made to anchor, to choose, to respond with thoughtfulness and presence, to take in the world not as an endless battle to be won, but as a terrain to navigate with wisdom. When you release the false sense of responsibility to carry every burden, solve every problem, and respond to every opinion or demand, you begin to feel something sacred return. Stillness, simplicity, sanity. These are not luxuries for the lucky few. They are the birthright of anyone who chooses them. Peace is not passive. It is powerful. It is not the absence of action, but the presence of intention. It is choosing to speak when it matters, to act when it counts, and to rest when it's needed. It is cultivated slowly, piece by piece, thought by thought, breath by breath. You will not arrive at peace accidentally. You must pursue it deliberately, like a craftsman honing a tool. It takes repetition, and patience, and forgiveness. And often the greatest shift begins not with doing, but with seeing. Not with running faster, but with stopping long enough to notice what truly matters. It means stepping off the path that everyone else is rushing down and asking yourself, is this where I actually want to go? Not with changing the world, but changing your stance toward it. Clarity, not control, is your ally. It allows you to know when to engage and when to release, when to speak and when to remain still. And clarity comes when you are quiet enough to hear your own wisdom beneath the noise. The wisdom that's been waiting to guide you, the wisdom that whispers when the world shouts. That wisdom reminds you, not everything is yours to fix. Not every fire is yours to put out. Some things are better left to burn away on their own. Some things teach through their fading, because endings have a way of clarifying what beginnings never could. Letting go isn't always loss. Sometimes it's liberation. Your presence is more powerful than your interference. Your discernment more valuable than your defense. And sometimes the greatest impact you can make is by not stepping in at all, by choosing not to perpetuate the cycle, by allowing life to unfold without your constant correction. When you stop grasping for control, when you stop chasing peace through perfection, your soul begins to soften. It begins to see with clearer eyes. And what it sees is this: you don't have to fix everything to be worthy. You don't have to carry everything to be enough. You don't have to be everywhere for everyone at every moment to live a life of integrity and impact. Your soul begins to feel lighter when it no longer tries to carry what it was never meant to bear. That lightness is not irresponsibility. It's alignment with your highest truth. It's the clarity that comes when you no longer confuse effort with effectiveness or suffering with significance. It's the grace of standing in the storm and realizing you are not the storm, you are the sky behind it, wide and unshaken. That lightness is wisdom. It's the quiet confidence that comes from knowing your place in the storm. You don't have to stop the waves. You only have to stand rooted. It's the calm that cannot be taken away by a change in schedule, or a harsh word, or a closed door. It's the strength of showing up day after day, even when you're tired, even when you're overlooked, even when you are misunderstood, and doing so with a heart at peace. It's the courage to let go of what no longer serves your peace, to bless what leaves, to trust the absence, to give your energy only to what feeds your growth and deepens your sense of wholeness. In that space, your soul can finally rest. It can exhale after years of holding its breath, and from that rest, it can rise, not frantic, not scattered, but whole and awake and rooted, not clinging to the illusion of control, but anchored in truth. And from that wholeness, you begin to move through life with a different kind of presence, one that brings peace wherever it goes. Not because the world around you has changed, but because you have. You've returned to yourself. You've remembered what matters. And that remembrance becomes your rhythm, your compass, your quiet revolution. Chapter 2. Silence is strength. We live in a time where noise is power. Loud opinions get attention. Speed is celebrated. Response time is measured in seconds. We are told that if you don't speak immediately, you lose relevance. If you don't respond quickly, you appear weak. But the Stoics found strength not in volume, but in restraint, not in winning arguments, but in mastering reactions, not in withdrawal or passivity, but in the powerful discipline of holding back. Seneca wrote, "It is a great thing to know the season for speech and the season for silence." Knowing that difference can change your life. Silence is not emptiness, it is sacred space. It is the place where clarity can take root and rise. In silence, the dust settles, the fog clears. It is in silence that our scattered thoughts are allowed to find their natural rhythm and coherence. A soul that is constantly speaking, reacting, defending and explaining is a soul that has forgotten how to listen to others and, more importantly, to itself. Without listening, there can be no understanding, and without understanding, there is no wisdom. Silence allows your thoughts to mature before they are born into words. It is not the absence of communication, it is the foundation of meaningful speech. It is the quiet breath before the decisive act, the still moment before the strike of clarity. Think about your last conflict, your last emotional trigger, the last time you snapped or sent a message too fast. What would have changed if you had paused, inhaled deeply, and let silence carry the moment instead of your emotion? What would have been preserved, your dignity, your connection, your peace, if you had chosen stillness over immediacy? The Stoics didn't fear emotion, they feared being mastered by it. Anger may surge, but you do not have to be its vessel. Offense may land, but you do not have to grant it a home. Silence is the difference between unconscious reaction and conscious response. It is the choice to remain sovereign, to choose your timing, to refuse the bait of chaos. Practice silence in the smallest spaces. When a stranger is rude, when a loved one misunderstands you, when your ego wants to correct or impress, and even in those mundane moments where discomfort tempts you to fill the void. Let a moment pass without narration. Let the stillness stretch beyond your instinct. Let a hurtful comment dissolve without echo. Let a pause stretch longer than is comfortable, and then longer still. These are the places where your soul is forged. The world is addicted to noise. Refusing it is your rebellion. It is not passive silence, but purposeful stillness. This is not weakness. It is mastery in motion. It is the bold and unshakable decision to be still when everything urges movement. It is restraint, not suppression. It is self-possession, not avoidance. Silence doesn't suppress truth. It dignifies it. It frames it. It doesn't delay power. It distills it. It gives weight to your words and clarity to your convictions. It teaches your voice to matter more when it is deliberate, when it is thoughtful, when it is rooted in something deeper than impulse or insecurity. In that space, silence becomes your greatest strength. Your soul grows stronger in the quiet, not because it hides from the world, but because it sharpens in solitude to return with precision and purpose. The quiet becomes your armor, your compass, your mirror. Silence isn't retreat, it is strategic presence. It's a signal that you trust yourself, that you do not need to defend, explain, or rush. It is the force that steadies you when the crowd chants, when the world agitates, when your own emotions rise like a storm. It reminds you who you are beneath the influence of external noise, and it protects you from being shaped by every trigger. In silence, you begin to master the energy you carry. You learn to hold tension without letting it twist you. You become less like a match struck and more like a candle that burns long and warm, sustained, steady, and sacred. And from that stillness, you speak, not to be validated, not to be loud, but to be honest. You speak from alignment, not from ego. You speak with clarity, timing, and wisdom, not out of urgency or insecurity. Your words are no longer reaction, they become instruments of insight. You understand that to speak less often is not to be silent, but to be selective. You choose when to speak, how to speak, and most importantly, why to speak. In a world addicted to reaction, your silence becomes rebellion. It is the subtle refusal to let the outside world dictate your inner state. It becomes your refusal to be manipulated, your refusal to be fragmented by every headline, every insult, every invitation to chaos. You become untouchable in the best way, not because you don't care, but because you care wisely. In a world drowning in noise, your quiet becomes divine. It is not the silence of absence, but of presence. It becomes a sanctuary, not just for you, but for those around you who find rest in your steadiness. They watch how you move slowly in a fast world. They see how you pause when others rush. Through your example, they learn that peace is possible, even here. That wisdom is still alive. That not every question needs an answer, and not every moment needs a response. In your silence, you become a mirror to others, a reminder that power doesn't shout, it listens first. And when it does speak, it changes things. Your stillness plants seeds. Your restraint opens space. Your calm presence teaches louder than any words ever could. In time, people may not remember what you said, but they will remember how you made them feel, with your calm, your discernment, your discipline. And that is where the soul becomes most luminous, in the quiet strength that radiates from one who knows when to speak and when to be still. Chapter 3. Discipline is liberation. To the undisciplined, freedom looks like doing whatever you want. To the Stoic, freedom is doing what is right, even when you don't feel like it. Freedom is not indulgence, it is integrity in motion. Discipline is not punishment, it is permission. Permission to be who you say you want to be. To live aligned with your values instead of being enslaved by your whims. To build a life that reflects your deeper truth rather than your fleeting moods. Epictetus, a former slave-turned-philosopher, taught that no man is free who is not master of himself. His words still echo because they cut to the root of our unrest. This isn't about rigid control, it's about inner harmony. It's not about denying emotion, it's about choosing action in spite of it. It's about living in alignment with your principles rather than your impulses. Discipline, at its core, is a relationship with your future self. It's how you say, I believe in who I'm becoming. Think about the small acts of discipline, rising when your body wants to sleep longer, refraining from saying something sharp when it would be easy, choosing a meaningful task over a tempting distraction. Discipline lives in these details. It's not about dramatic gestures or heroic willpower. It's about the consistent practice of choosing growth over gratification. It's in that tiny pause where you choose patience over impulse. It's in the moment where you walk away instead of escalate. It's in the quiet decision to take responsibility when it would be easier to blame. Each of these is a vote for your highest self. Each of these moments, however small, builds the architecture of a life you can be proud of. They are bricks laid one at a time, forming the strong foundation beneath your character. Each of these is a step toward inner power. Not power over others, but power over your own habits, your own mind, your own direction. It is the kind of power that doesn't seek control. It embodies control. It flows not from dominance, but from consistency. Discipline is not glamorous. It's quiet. It's in the repetition. It's in the decisions that nobody sees. It's in the commitment that endures after motivation fades. It's in the unseen effort. It's in the rituals you honor, the promises you keep to yourself, even when no one else is watching. But it is the scaffolding of greatness. It is the frame that holds the structure of character, the daily carving of virtue. It is how you transform intention into reality. A disciplined soul doesn't flinch when discomfort comes. It meets it with a calm nod, knowing that struggle is the whetstone of strength. It leans in, not out. It doesn't wait for ideal conditions. It creates momentum in less than perfect ones. It adapts. It acts. Discomfort is not the enemy. It is the training ground, the evidence that you are growing beyond the familiar and into the realm where mastery is born. You won't always feel motivated. You won't always feel clear. But you can always choose your next action. You can always plant your foot and take one more step. And if you fall, you stand again. And if you slip, you learn. That is discipline, not perfection, not performance. Persistence. It is grace with grit. It is steadiness over time. And that consistency, humble and quiet as it is, becomes your greatest ally. It gives shape to your progress and texture to your integrity. Liberation is not the absence of rules. It is the presence of inner order. It is knowing your why and honoring it, even when it's hard. It is the serenity of knowing you are led by principle rather than pulled by impulse. It is the peace that grows when your life reflects what you believe. It is knowing where you stand and who you are, even when life is uncertain, even when no one is watching, even when no one applauds. It is the silent loyalty to the self you are still building. Your soul needs this, a rhythm, a rule, a foundation, something that holds when everything else shakes, a set of internal laws more powerful than external chaos. A compass that does not swing with the winds of convenience or opinion. Discipline is not a cage, it is the key. It unlocks consistency, peace, strength, and the quiet pride of being who you promised yourself you'd be, not for the crowd, not for the applause, but for the simple, sacred reason that it matters to you, that it is the life your soul longs to live. Chapter 4. Purpose is your anchor. The Stoics believed that without purpose, the soul withers. When a person lives without direction, they become vulnerable to the winds of emotion, circumstance, and opinion. But when a person lives with purpose, they become like a ship with a steady rudder, capable of navigating through storm and stillness alike. Purpose is not something grand you must chase across continents. It begins where you are. It begins with the question, what is mine to do? What matters enough for me to endure discomfort? To sacrifice temporary ease for long-term meaning? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." This is the essence of purpose. It's not abstract. It's action. It's alignment. A life without purpose will always feel empty, no matter how full your schedule is. But a life grounded in purpose, even if quiet, even if simple, will echo with a sense of internal strength. You can be busy and still be hollow. Or you can move through life with a clarity that brings weight and worth to everything you touch. To cultivate purpose, you must look inward. Not once, but often. You must turn away from the noise of comparison and expectation and return to the still, small voice within you. Ask yourself, what are your values? What do you believe is worth building, protecting, defending? What would you suffer for without resentment? What feels so aligned with your soul that effort feels like honor not obligation. What gives your effort meaning even when results aren't guaranteed, even when no one is watching, even when you're exhausted? Your answers do not need to impress others. They only need to be true to you. That truth becomes your ground. That truth becomes your root in the wind. Purpose is not a single goal. It's a guiding fire that lives deep within you. It is not defined by titles, accolades, or external validation. It lives in the intention behind your choices, the direction of your energy, the consistency of your steps, and the clarity of your why. It does not demand perfection. It demands presence. It changes shape as you grow, evolving as you move through different seasons of life. But its heat remains constant. It warms you in cold seasons. It lights your path in confusion. It whispers when the noise of life gets too loud. It keeps you moving when the world tells you to quit. It speaks when motivation fails. It stays when clarity fades. Purpose is the weight that gives your actions meaning, your thoughts depth, and your struggles nobility. Without it, every task feels heavy. With it, every step feels sacred. Your soul doesn't need a flawless plan. It needs a reason, a why, a reason that roots you in something deeper than comfort, applause, or convenience. It needs something unshakable when life tries to shake everything, a reason that makes you rise when it would be easier to rest, a reason that makes the mundane meaningful and the painful worthwhile. Purpose gives shape to sacrifice. It redefines failure as education and discomfort as refinement. When you live from that reason, you don't have to fear hardship. You begin to see hardship not as a detour, but as part of the design. You stop seeing setbacks as personal attacks and start seeing them as shaping tools. You stop measuring your life by what you achieve and start measuring it by what you endure for the sake of something larger than yourself. Purpose doesn't eliminate struggle, but it redeems it. It gives suffering a structure, turns delay into discipline, and transforms pain into preparation. It creates a thread of meaning that ties together what might otherwise feel disconnected and chaotic. It reminds you that growth costs, but what it builds is worth more than what it takes. When you forget your purpose, everything feels heavier. The day loses its shape. The obstacles feel personal. The routine becomes suffocating, like a loop you can't escape. The motivation fades. The clarity disappears. Even your joy starts to feel forced, your efforts disconnected from anything lasting. Without purpose, small irritations grow large. You become more reactive, more scattered, more prone to seeking distractions rather than direction. The mind races, the body tires, and the soul begins to whisper, "This is not it." But when you remember your purpose, even in fragments, even faintly, you regain your footing. You start to breathe differently. You start to see the same problems through a new lens. The same path feels lighter. The same hardship feels worthy. The same task becomes a testament to your resilience and your commitment. Even your mistakes begin to teach you instead of haunt you. They become part of the blueprint instead of something to hide. The world may still pull at you, but you're not so easily moved, because you know what you're here for, and that knowledge becomes your quiet courage. It doesn't shout, it steadies. It doesn't flash, it anchors. It lets you act without needing applause, endure without needing to explain, serve without seeking credit. It allows you to stay the course even when there's no visible reward. It keeps you loyal to something invisible but deeply real, the version of you that is becoming, the version that doesn't just survive but matures through the storm. In confusion, your soul doesn't need more answers. It doesn't need more information. More data won't bring you peace. It needs purpose, a tether, a light, a reason to keep going when the road is unclear and your strength feels spent. Not a map, but a compass. Not step-by-step instructions, but a direction of heart. a conviction that says, this is the way, even when everything in you wants to stop. When you walk with purpose, you walk with resilience, you move with grace, you develop patience, you endure the silence, you learn the sacred art of continuing, not because it's easy, but because it's true. You build meaning into your routine. You shape significance into your story. Even your silence speaks. Even your waiting is sacred. Even your pain has meaning. Purpose transforms wandering into pilgrimage, waiting into preparation, and struggle into strength. It gives gravity to your gifts and endurance to your effort. It brings coherence to chaos and turns life's noise into a melody of meaning. That's why your soul needs it. Not someday, but now. Not later, when everything feels perfect. Right now more than ever, because now is when the world needs your light, your steadiness, your purpose-infused presence the most. Chapter 5. The Fire Within. There is a fire within you. The Stoics called it the inner citadel, a place no one can invade, no event can ruin, no insult can burn down. It is the unshakable core of who you are when everything else is stripped away. It is where your integrity, your courage, your endurance live. This fire is not loud, but it is unyielding. It is not showy, but it is unshakable. It is the part of you that holds firm when everything else trembles. It does not scream for attention, but it radiates a quiet steadiness that cannot be faked. It is the source of your grit, your grace, your inner resilience. Too many look outward for approval, permission, recognition. They build their worth on shifting sands, on applause, on attention, on how well they are received by others. They seek validation like oxygen, only to find themselves gasping when it disappears. But the Stoic turns inward. They know that the fire must be tended from within, not fueled by the praise or validation of the crowd. They know that peace sourced from external applause is fleeting, but strength built from inner clarity endures. The soul becomes weak when it is only fed by external success. It forgets how to be strong in silence, how to be proud without praise, how to be steady without attention. It loses its compass. But when the fire is lit from within, it becomes a sanctuary, a hidden sanctuary the world cannot touch. To cultivate this inner fire, you must do hard things, not just for achievement, but for growth. You must willingly step into discomfort, not because you enjoy it, but because you understand that on the other side of discomfort lives strength. You must choose values over validation, effort over ease, principle over popularity. This means setting boundaries that may disappoint others, but protect your soul. It means rising early when you'd rather rest, speaking truth when silence would be easier, and choosing focus when distraction is tempting. You must walk through discomfort with your eyes open, refusing to numb it or run from it, because you know it holds lessons meant only for you. You must embrace failure not as proof of inadequacy, but as the furnace where resilience is forged. You must do what is right, not just when it is convenient, but especially when it is not. Especially when no one is watching. Especially when your heart is tired and the reward feels distant. This is how the soul becomes a fortress, not just a facade. It doesn't need to perform. It doesn't need to be seen. It doesn't need the approval of the crowd. It doesn't need to prove itself. It needs only to remain true, consistent, faithful, grounded, quiet in strength, loud only in conviction. Don't wait to feel brave. Do the thing while trembling. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward despite it, even when your knees shake and your heart pounds, even when doubt whispers louder than resolve. Don't wait to feel whole. Act with integrity while healing. You are not required to be perfect to be purposeful. Your scars do not disqualify you. They qualify you with wisdom that untested souls have not yet earned. Don't wait for someone to save you. Live like your life matters, because it does. Because every single choice you make is an investment in the person you are becoming. Every step you take in truth, every sacrifice made for the sake of integrity, every time you say no to comfort and yes to calling, you build something sacred. You build a soul that cannot be broken by praise or crushed by criticism. Every time you choose courage over comfort, every time you honor your truth instead of echoing the noise around you, every time you act from principle instead of popularity, you add fuel to the flame. You strengthen the structure of your inner citadel. You clarify the voice of your conscience. You become your own sanctuary. It burns not for drama, but for direction. Not to impress, but to illuminate. Not to rise above others, but to rise above your lesser self. To rise above the distractions, the doubts, the habits that once ruled you. To become someone whose strength is silent, steady, and unwavering. The fire doesn't roar, it glows, quietly, faithfully, in how you show up, in how you speak, in how you endure, in how you choose to hold your center when life pulls at your edges. It lives in the pauses you take to center yourself. It lives in your consistent return to what is right, even after you drift. It lives in your ability to endure what others flee from. It is in your consistency, your courage, your compassion. It is in your ability to hold a boundary, to say no with peace, to say yes with intention. It is in how you rise after failing, how you return after drifting, how you recommit after losing your way. It is in the decision to keep going when quitting seems easier. It is in your capacity to forgive yourself and try again. It is in the humility to begin anew and the faith to believe it still matters. It is in how you carry the weight of unseen effort and still choose to stand tall. Feed it with truth. Guard it with discernment. Live from it with quiet conviction. Remind yourself daily, the flame is yours to tend. Do not let it die from neglect. Do not wait for someone else to ignite it. Fan it gently with action, with discipline, with self-respect. Water it with silence. Shelter it with prayer. Let it grow wild inside of you, calm, radiant, and real. Your soul needs this fire, not to burn others, but to light your way. It is your source, your compass, your silent strength. It is the warmth you will need when the world turns cold. It is the clarity you will need when the path disappears. It is the power you will rely on when everything else falls away. And when the world grows dark, it is this fire that will guide you home. It will remind you of who you are. It will show you who you can still become. It will hold the truth when your mind is tired and your heart is afraid. And it will never, ever stop burning, so long as you choose to feed it. It is not something given. It is something guarded, not something found, but something forged. Tend it like your life depends on it, because it does, because it always has. Chapter 6. The Discipline of Joy. Joy, for the Stoic, is not a fleeting emotion that comes and goes depending on external success or temporary ease. It is a disciplined state, a conscious decision to orient the soul toward gratitude, presence, and the pursuit of what is meaningful. While the world often sells joy as a reward, something to be chased, something that arrives once everything aligns, the Stoic knows that joy is not a destination. It is a byproduct of a life rightly lived. To feel joy is not to ignore hardship. It is to see life fully and still choose reverence. Marcus Aurelius faced betrayal, illness, war, and still wrote of joy as something internal, sacred, and resilient. The happiness of your life, he said, depends upon the quality of your thoughts, and your thoughts, like your actions, can be trained. We practice joy not by waiting for perfect moments, but by paying attention to the warmth of the sun, to the sound of laughter, to the strength in our breath, the steadiness in our stance, The undisciplined mind skims past these things, always hungry for more. But the trained mind pauses, notices, and honors them. That pause is where joy lives. Joy also requires boundaries. You cannot be immersed in noise, conflict, and chaos and expect your spirit to sing. Protect your peace like you protect your values. Curate your inputs. Limit the voices that provoke anxiety or shallow comparison. Turn toward practices that replenish, not drain, you. Read deeply, move your body, pray, meditate, journal. Let stillness speak to you louder than the culture's chaos. Gratitude is the gateway to joy, and it is not passive, it is intentional. Write it, speak it, hold it in moments of darkness like a flame that cannot be extinguished. When life feels bleak, joy says, even now I will notice what is good. Even in winter, I will find the seed of spring. Joy does not mean every day is easy. It means every day has something worth honoring, something worth noticing, something worth being fully present for. It's not about the absence of difficulty, it's about the presence of perspective. The disciplined soul learns to seek it out, not as escape, but as evidence. Evidence that meaning still exists even when plans unravel. Evidence that light still shines even when clouds gather. That your spirit is still awake, still reaching, still receptive to the good. Joy is the quiet resistance against cynicism. It's the soft but unbreakable defiance in the face of despair. It's the willingness to smile without needing a reason, to give thanks when you're still waiting, to breathe deeply in the middle of chaos. Joy is not naive. It's not blind optimism. It is aware of the pain, the tension, the longing, and still it chooses to see the beauty. It chooses to honor the sacred hidden in the ordinary. A conversation, a sunrise, a step forward. Joy is not the result of a perfect life. It is the reward of a present one, and that presence, cultivated through stillness and gratitude, becomes a posture of power. Because in choosing joy, you reclaim your attention from the things that drain it and offer it to the things that deepen you. Even in a world of hardship, joy is a rebellion worth choosing. Not because it fixes everything, but because it transforms how you carry everything. It shifts your posture. It steadies your gaze. It reminds you that though you cannot always choose your circumstances, you can always choose how you hold your soul through them. That is joy, not ease, but endurance crowned with reverence. Chapter 7. The courage to be misunderstood. One of the hardest things your soul will face is being misunderstood. You speak your truth, live with conviction, and still they question you, still they doubt you, still they walk away. And this, the Stoics would say, is precisely where your strength is tested. You are not here to be liked. You are here to be whole. You are not here to bend for applause. You are here to stand for what is right, for what is true, even when that truth is uncomfortable. And that means, at times, you will not be seen clearly by those around you. They will judge your silence. They will question your boundaries. They will call your peace detachment and your discipline coldness. They will invent stories about your intentions, misread your restraint as rejection, and project their fears onto your choices. But you must remember, their perception is not your responsibility. Their misunderstanding is not your mission to resolve. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That includes other people's opinions. That includes their approval, their misunderstanding, their projections. Their version of you is not you. You are not obligated to perform for people's comfort. You are not required to twist your soul into a shape that makes others more at ease. There is freedom in letting go of the need to be understood by those who are unwilling or unable to see you clearly. The courage to be misunderstood is the courage to remain rooted while others rush to assumptions. It's the courage to let someone walk away without chasing them, to let someone disagree without needing to explain, to stay quiet when provoked, to hold your truth even when it trembles inside you. It's the quiet decision to protect your integrity more than your image. And that is not arrogance, it is spiritual maturity. It is strength without spectacle. It is power that does not depend on being seen. Not every misunderstanding needs to be corrected. Not every criticism deserves your attention. Let your life speak for itself. Let your character echo louder than your explanations. Let your steadiness be the answer to their confusion. Sometimes your silence is your testimony. Sometimes your refusal to argue is your strength. You will be misread by people committed to their own assumptions. Do not shrink to fix their lens. Do not contort yourself to ease their discomfort. Being misunderstood is not a sign you're failing. Often it's a sign you're becoming more grounded, more whole, more aligned with your values. And alignment is rarely popular, but it is always powerful. It doesn't shout, it stands. It doesn't beg to be seen, it honors itself in private. Your soul needs this courage, not to win people's favor, but to keep walking your path when it's lonely. To hold to your truth even when it costs you comfort. To look in the mirror and know you were loyal to yourself. This is the fire-tested strength of a soul that knows peace is better than popularity, and authenticity is worth the price of being misread. And in time, those who are meant to walk with you will see you clearly, not because you fought to be understood, but because you had the courage to be real. Chapter 8. The Beauty of Restraint. In a world that celebrates excess, more noise, more speed, more attention, the Stoic sees virtue in less, in silence, in slowness, in holding back when ego wants to charge ahead. Restraint is not weakness. It is the mark of maturity. It is the conscious choice to direct your energy rather than waste it. The Stoics taught that every emotion, every impulse, every reaction is a moment to practice mastery. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Restraint is that mastery in motion. It is knowing you could speak, but choosing not to. That you could win, but choosing peace. That you could retaliate, but choosing stillness. Practicing restraint means not being hijacked by the moment. Not every battle is worth fighting. Not every provocation deserves your attention. Not every opportunity needs to be seized. True power is being able to act and choosing when not to. The more you exercise restraint, the more deliberate your life becomes. Restraint also means honoring your limits. You don't have to be everywhere. You don't have to respond to everything. You don't have to explain yourself constantly. Let your silence teach. Let your presence say what words cannot. The soul that learns restraint is a soul that grows strong in stillness. It is not easily provoked. It does not seek attention. It does not depend on applause. And that kind of soul becomes immovable, not hardened, but anchored. Your soul needs this restraint, not to suppress your strength, but to refine it. Restraint is how your power becomes wisdom, how your confidence becomes humility, and how your truth speaks loudest when no words are spoken. Chapter 9. The Sacredness of Simplicity. The Stoics did not worship ease. They did not seek comfort for its own sake. They revered endurance, the ability to stay steady through storms, to keep going when others give up, to carry burdens with grace and without complaint. Endurance is not the absence of struggle. It is the conscious decision to continue even when struggle persists. Seneca said, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. Pain, loss, failure. These are not enemies of the soul, but tools that refine it." The Stoic does not flinch in hardship. They stand firm, not because it is easy, but because it is right. Because every time you endure, your soul gains weight. It becomes more real, more rooted, more resilient. Endurance is not glamorous. It rarely receives applause. It is forged in the quiet hours, in the unnoticed decisions, in the private battles. It is the moment you show up to life, even when you feel invisible. It is the moment you rise again when there is no spotlight, no audience, no reassurance. Just the quiet inner voice that says, "Keep going." It is choosing to stay the course when the path seems unclear, to keep putting one foot in front of the other when there is no guarantee of reward, no immediate sign that your labor matters. It is waking up when your heart is heavy and still taking that first step towards something better. Endurance is the art of daily faithfulness to your values, to your purpose, to your healing, even when progress feels painfully slow. It is showing up without fanfare. It is loving yourself enough to continue when nobody cheers. It is building a life with invisible bricks of effort, trust, and resilience. To endure is not to be passive. It is not to resign. It is to fight with calm, to walk through fire without losing your shape. It is the practice of carrying weight without collapsing. Endurance is not about being untouched. It is about being unbroken. It is the capacity to absorb life's shocks and keep moving with intention. It is knowing that life may test your body, your heart, your patience, but it cannot take your will. Even in exhaustion, even in confusion, you rise. You choose the next right step. You hold to what matters. You take action, not because you feel strong, but because you refuse to give up. Endurance is the evidence that your spirit refuses to surrender to what is easy. It is the strength to remain when every part of you wants to run, the grace to keep steady when everything else shakes. Your soul needs endurance, not because life is cruel, but because your purpose is sacred. You are not here to coast. You are here to carry light through darkness, to walk forward when others sit down, to hold hope when it flickers. You are here to outlast what was meant to break you. You are here to grow through the slow burn, to deepen through difficulty, to root yourself in something greater than pain. The road is long, the resistance is real, but the fruit of endurance is a soul that knows its strength, not because it shouted, but because it stayed, because it kept loving when it felt unloved, because it kept trusting when clarity was far away, because it did not abandon itself in hard seasons, because it knew that becoming is not instant, but incremental, because it learned that victory is often invisible until the journey is done. And still, it walked on. Still, it rose. Still, it believed. Chapter 10. The stillness that changes everything. Stillness is not the absence of life. It is the essence of life rightly lived. The Stoics did not seek to escape the world. They sought to meet it with composure. Stillness is what allows wisdom to emerge, perspective to sharpen, and courage to mature. We often mistake motion for progress. We rush, we react, we reach, and we exhaust ourselves in the process. But the Stoic understands, you don't need more movement. You need more meaning, and meaning is found in stillness. Stillness is when you stop running from your thoughts, when you sit with what you feel without needing to fix it, when you observe the moment without rushing to the next. It is when you anchor yourself to now, not because now is perfect, but because now is all you ever have. Stillness is where you hear the whisper beneath the noise, the wisdom that doesn't shout, the truth that doesn't tremble. It's where the fog clears and your next step reveals itself, not because you forced it, but because you waited long enough to see. A still soul is not a disengaged one. It is deeply engaged, with clarity, with courage, with conviction. Stillness does not make you passive. It makes you precise. It teaches you when to act and when to let go, when to speak and when to be silent, when to move and when to wait. Your soul needs stillness, not as a break from life, but as a way to live it. Stillness isn't the reward, it is the rhythm, the foundation, the quiet center that remains untouched no matter how loud the world becomes. And when you live from that stillness, everything changes. You stop reacting, you start responding, you stop grasping, you start giving, you stop proving, you start being. This is what your soul needs, not one day, but every day. Stillness, purpose, courage, restraint, simplicity, and joy. Not as destinations, but as disciplines, not as outcomes, but as orientations. Because in the end, the soul is not saved by what it accumulates, but by how it lives.